Welcome back to Deviatus. I just have a couple of announcements before getting to this week's interview. First, I just want to say thanks for all the downloads of the Sally House series. Between the 3 episodes and 1 bonus episode, there's nearly 4,000 downloads to start Season 2 off. Now, that's not a huge number compared to some of the podcasts out there, but to put it into some perspective for this show, I was only averaging about 200 downloads a month last October when it was only a couple months after launch. So that's definitely a large increase, and thank you. And next, for anyone who's filled out a guest submission form on my website, I recently learned that I was not getting notifications on those submissions. After speaking with tech support for the plugin I use, it's back on track now, but if you have submitted a guest form and I haven't responded, please send me a quick note to let me know. You can email me at deviatuspod@gmail.com. I promise I will respond to your emails, and I apologize if you've submitted a guest request and I haven't yet reached out to you. Now, I'm very excited to share today's interview with you. Today's guest is Lorna Adams, and she specializes in psychic readings for current topics as well as future readings, and can connect people with someone who's passed on. She also serves to connect people with their spirit guides, and she even gave me a personal reading during this interview. Some of that information involves people who are alive and well in my personal life today. So for that reason, I have intentionally muted the audio when real names of people who did not wish to be identified were spoken out of respect for their privacy. At the end of this episode, after my chat with Lorna, I'm going to be trying out something new, kind of a new segment to the show. So stick around after I'm done speaking with Lorna for something I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy. Well, I've never interviewed anyone who provides psychic readings before, but can you explain a little bit about how you receive your information during a reading?
Sure. What I do is when I prepare for a reading, I do a prayer and meditation. And what I do is I don't use any tarot cards or anything like that. I never have. I don't have anything against them. I wouldn't know what to do with them. I mean, I'm aware of them, but so what I do is I connect with people's spirit guides, and we all have spirit guides, whether you're aware of them or not. And if people aren't aware of their spirit guides, I describe them as that little small voice, that inner guidance system that we all are hopefully somewhat aware of. And we have actually many guides at any one time. And so since I've been doing this for so long, most of my life, it's very easy for me to connect with spirit guides, also angels. And so before someone comes for a reading, whether it be on Skype or even an email reading or a phone reading or in person, I do my prayer and meditation, and then I go back to what I started with when I was a teenager, which is called automatic writing. Mm-hmm. So I get a notepad out and I write their first name down, and then I listen for the guides to start talking to me about what's going on with this person. And I don't do this. I just actually started doing that years ago, just as sort of for fun, to amuse myself, really. And so the guides will be talking about things going on with the person that is about to come for the reading. And of course, it makes no sense to me, but it's not for me. And automatic writing, if you're not familiar with that, is described as writing without conscious thought. And so it's another dimension or realm of the spirit guides that I tap into, and I can hear them very, very easily, just as easy as I hear you. So that's how I start. And that's how I started when I was a teenager with automatic writing, which is actually known to a lot of people. And it's actually a very simple way to communicate with spirit. And many people can do it. It's really not that difficult.
Does that require special training, or did you just decide to one day go out and start doing that?
No, I really didn't. I didn't choose to do it. My guides started communicating with me when I was a teenager. And so they would wake me up in the middle of the night, and I would get these very clear thoughts or ideas, and I would write them down and then, go back to sleep. And so that's how it started. And then over the years, it morphed into where I could control it more.
Mhm.
And I could choose when to listen to my guides and take down what they were saying. And a lot of the stuff that they talk about or they spoke about back then was very complex, very Akashic record like, very, very complicated stuff. And it, just over the years, I mean, I never had the goal of being a psychic at all, to tell you the truth, at all, none whatsoever.
Just kind of
So,
landed in your lap, huh?
yeah, it did. It didn't. My husband actually kind of elbowed me into it. He's like, "You got to do this. It helps people." And and speaking to those who passed, and I've just had a lot of reluctance. I just thought, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding?" Because I've always had it, but it was just my family knew, my immediate family, but really nobody else knew. Friends that I've had for over 20 years, they didn't know that I did this. They didn't know that I was able to communicate with people who passed. And so I had to come out of the psychic closet.
Well, did you ever find after you did that there was any sort of ridicule or change in those friendships?
No, that was my fear. And in reality, that never has happened to me. That has actually, from the people that I would think like, oh my gosh, they're so close-minded. They would be like, what? And that really never happened. I'm happy to say people would say, friends, and acquaintances, they would say, wow, what a great thing that you're able to do that. How interesting, which really surprised me and happily, because nobody really said, oh, you're insane. So,
Well, it sounds like you got a great group of friends. I do hear a lot of that, once you even just coming out and saying, I believe in ghosts or,
yes.
something like that. There is an element of ridicule that keeps a lot of people, caged up and not talking about these things.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Well, I have some questions about spirit guides, but I kind of wanted to go back to what you said about you hearing them. Do you ever believe that your information relayed is in the form of, feeling things more or seeing things? What other ways do they present themselves to you?
The other ways is they will speak to me, for lack of a better way to put it, in pictures. And so they will give me pictures of a situation, and because it's so much quicker to relay information in a picture, and it will be a very concise picture, like someone's head in a vice, that relays, quite a lot of emotion and feeling behind it. So they will do that often, and it's really nice because it saves time, because words are, can be very slow and lethargic, and they speak at a much higher vibration, so they speak much quicker. So they will speak that way, and it's just interesting. Things just come floating in from all sort of different areas. It's an interesting process.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said you developed this ability as a teenager. Can you tell me about the first time that you experienced this, and kind of what was going through your mind, and how did you react? Were you scared or?
Yeah, I've never been afraid. The only thing that I asked them when I was younger, that I consistently asked them, and I said, don't ever show me like a dead person materializing in front of me. I said, just now I could probably handle that now, but don't ever do that. Like sort of, like that show, The Ghost Whisper,
Mm-hmm.
and, all these dead people, all do all these things. And I said, I can do the rest of it. Just don't do that. And they've been kind enough to not do that, which I was happy about. So I was never afraid of the communication, but I also had a friend of the family. She was like a grandmother to me, and she had been doing automatic writing. She did it every day. She did a page every day. She called it her daily lesson. And she had been doing automatic writing since the 50s, so, or probably before that. So she was my mentor, and she was my teacher, and she helped me to understand really complex things like, universal law, and just just a multitude of things. So I was never really afraid. As far as one of the first pictures that they showed me, or vision, if you know, whatever you want to call it, is it was interesting. Um, it was a very strong message, and um, they have a lot of humor too. And so the logo for Allstate Insurance
Yes.
is a pair of hands.
Yes.
Yeah. So they showed me, and I think I was, a typical teenager, very, up and down and morose and emotional, and had a crush on this one, and just that sort of thing. Everything was so dramatic, I recall. And they showed me these hands, and they showed me just like those hands that were open, and they said to me distinctly that you can have anything you want. You can have any kind of life you want. You can have absolutely anything that you want. All you have to do is pick. And these hands were just presented to me, and it to me, that was a real turning point. It really changed my life. I mean, it was such an epiphany. It was such a clear moment, and I recognized it. I thought, oh, it's like the Allstate, it's
Hmm.
like the Allstate ad. But so that was a big turning point for me, and from then on, I that was my and always has been my motto. It's like I can basically have anything I want if I'm willing to work for it.
Okay. Well, do you? I kind of get a sense that eventually you hit a turning point to decide to do readings for other people. Was it more of a decision that says I want to help people, or do you feel obligated? What made you decide? I guess ultimately that yes, this is where I'm going to make this turn.
Well, it's really out of helping people, because I always, I think it's pretty normal because I've just always had this ability. But and then really seriously, my husband Mike, he said, this really does help people.
Hmm.
But it took a long time to trust it, because as human beings, we're skeptical, and there's nothing wrong with skepticism. And even though I had been doing it for so long, it was my own personal relationship with my spirit guides. I didn't have to share it with anybody. And then deciding to offer readings to people, it was a ball of emotions. It was scary. I was apprehensive. I was, do I really want to do this? What if I'm wrong? I mean, just everything you can possibly think of. Which, thank goodness, I don't have to go through that anymore. So that, and really, my husband said, seriously, this really helps people, especially when they lose someone. So that is still my basis for doing this work. It can be difficult. It can be exhausting. It can take its toll. A lot of things. So it's not necessary. And at the same time, I love it. It's not easy work, and I don't know that anything worthwhile is easy.
Right.
So, but that's really is still my point, is definitely to help people. That's my main goal.
Do you believe that every single person has a spirit guide?
Absolutely, yes.
So
Spirit guides, plural.
okay. Oh, sometimes multiple, or is it all the time?
Always multiple.
Okay.
My guides tell me 7 or 8 guides at any one time, and they tend to wear particular hats. You might have a guide who's in charge of your health. You always have a guide who's just really hilarious and very humorous. And then there's usually a higher, kind of like higher on the evolutionary scale, a very somber spirit guide who's, very serious. About life, and life lessons and that sort of thing, and why we're here. So there's generally quite a mixed bag of spirit guides, because, and when you think of it, there are so many different sections of our lives. There's family, there's work, there's career, there's travel, there's our dreams. I mean, so many different things that we do while we're here.
Now I do just recently started doing some paranormal investigations, and a lot of the people on the team that I work with, they seem to know a lot of information about their own spirit guides, like age, sex, even their names. How would you say somebody would go about learning more about their spirit guides?
Well, I one of the best ways is meditation, and I say that, but I'm not a great meditator myself. But really, meditation is just the act of quieting your mind. So, in order to find out information from your spirit guides, you have to be clear enough and quiet enough to listen. So, it does take a certain amount of discipline. And I suggest to people, if they can't quiet their mind, because it is difficult, then listen to a guided meditation. And there's a million of them on YouTube for everything from peace or peace of mind to abundance to being able to sleep better. I mean, there's just thousands of them. So if you can't do it on your own, there's nothing wrong with listening to guided meditations. The other way to hear from your spirit guides is really just to ask them. And if you don't get a response, because a lot of us want it instantaneously, it usually doesn't come that way, then keep asking. Keep asking and ask for something specific. And they always say, don't overload them. Don't ask for, 10 things at once. Ask for perhaps a simple communication from your spirit guide. The other way that people seem to be able to hear their guides is doing mundane tasks. And for me, I'll be doing yard work or something really sort of mindless, like, weeding or, something really like, out of dishes, whatever. And it's in those moments that your mind isn't going a million miles an hour that spirit is able to come in and whisper, to you. And so the other thing about listening to your spirit guides, we're so funny human beings. We ask and we ask for our spirit guides to come through, and then when they do, we doubt it. We don't trust it. What if I'm wrong? Oh, that's just my own mind speaking. So we're such funny creatures because here we ask for it, and then we get what we want, seemingly, and then we doubt it. So it's like, okay, well, which one do you want? You can't have it both ways,
Right.
Either trust it or don't, So at some point you do have to trust it. And what if it is your own mind? So what? That can be a productive place as well.
Obviously you've been doing this a while now, but what are some of the reasons people approach you for readings?
Gosh, a lot of people would like confirmation of what they suspect is going on. Let's say, like, I think I'm ready for a move. I'd like to move to a different climate, to different, something really big like that. And spirit guides, when I do readings, all the information that comes across is always for someone's highest good. My experience is that spirit guides are your biggest fans. They have your back. They're there to support you. That is the only reason that they're here, is 100% to support you. So people will come for validation, and they will say, like, they want feedback from their guides, what they suspect, perhaps a certain job is coming to an end, or they want to go for a different position, relationship issues. It just really is just across the board. You name it, that's why they come. I also do animal communication, and people come. A lady just came yesterday, and she's just a really sweet woman, and she rescues dogs. And she had to put a particular dog down who was feral, and it was just breaking her heart. And so that spirit of that dog came through. And she just wanted confirmation that he made it to the other side and that he was okay and at peace, So really that's what people are seeking many times: peace of mind, guidance, validation, those sorts of things that we all need.
Now, I've heard some interviews on other podcasts with psychics, and some say that the information you receive, there's a certain level of interpretation that you're responsible for presenting. That there's maybe even a risk of misinterpretation. Do you feel that to be true?
I do. I think that's, I always tell people it's not an exact science, but that is one of the, clarity is probably, gosh, maybe one or two on my list of is what I strive for. Is I like to make sure that I am hearing the information, not for myself, but for the person that's coming for the reading, as however it can best serve them. So I like to make sure that I am receiving it correctly and passing it on correctly, because that to me that's just extremely important. So I believe that. I believe that to be true. It depends on, each of us as a psychic, you have your own filters, and your own, human traits that perhaps will get in the way. So I try and push all of that aside. And, number one at the top is to be of service. And then the other, going hand in hand with that would be clarity for the client coming for the reading.
So there is an element of humanity here where we're not always right. Can you say that you've been wrong, or maybe you've misinterpreted anything in the past?
I would think absolutely, because I think it's part of being human. If the great thing about my spirit guides is, and other people's spirit guides, is if they give me information that is, the client might be happy with it, but I want clarity. And I'll say to them, I don't even know what that means. You've got to tell me it a different way, because what is that? What is she supposed to do with that information? That's, and they will clarify 10 times in a row if need be. They're very patient. And if they give me something kind of squirrely, I'm like, okay, we don't know what that means. Tell me a different way, or give me some more information on that. So that's the beauty of it. Is I always tell people, you can ask anything you want. If there's anything you don't understand, absolutely. I mean, you're here to question it, and that makes no sense to me. And so then we'll delve deeper into it.
Now, do you ever receive negative information? And if so, do you ever refrain from informing your clients about it?
Once in a great while, I will. If my guides give me something that I feel is, life changing or very difficult to hear, I will ask them in my own way. I might ask them 2 or 3 or 4 times. Are you sure this is what you want me to pass on? Because it's a big obligation and responsibility, and I take it very seriously. And sometimes they'll say no, and I'll be tempted, but I will never go against what they say, because they know better than I do. And sometimes, it's difficult I don't tell people what they want to hear. I just pass on, that's my job, the information that Spirit passes on. It's not my job to edit it or to tell people what they want to hear, or to, tell them everything is going to be fine, when the guides may say, I don't know, you're kind of in for a rough 6 months. It's going to be challenging, Mm-hmm. So those sorts of things are hard to deliver. Yeah, those are, because there's a part of me that wants everybody to be happy, but right. It doesn't work that way, So, a lot of it, some readings are very emotional and very difficult,
Right.
So.
Now, it's pretty easy to see the benefits of obtaining a reading, but is there any reason you can think of to avoid getting a reading? Or, in other words, is there anyone who should not receive a reading?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And if you're not ready, if you don't trust the process of, that's why I always send people to my website. If you don't trust me as a reader, if you don't like me, if my personality doesn't resonate with you, if you think, I don't know, she's just kind of annoying, then absolutely don't come for a reading, then find someone who you like and who you think, oh, I get her or him, I understand that. If some people, this doesn't happen very often, thank goodness, but some people will come and they're really not ready for a reading. They don't trust me or the process itself. Not me personally, but as just as a reader. And then I say, gosh, don't waste your time, don't waste your money, because you're going to walk away from it frustrated, mistrusting, just kind of annoyed. And what is the point of that? That is not helpful at all.
Right. Now, what information do you typically need before you conduct a reading for someone?
Well, luckily, the only thing I need is someone's first name to connect with their energy. I don't know why it works that way. I don't. So the great thing about that is if there's anybody in your life that you want to know more about, or perhaps you're concerned about, maybe a family member is having health issues, all I need is their first name. And it's sort of like a door that opens up in my mind. And then the guides just show me everything about that person, good, bad, or indifferent. So that's all I need is their first name. So I'm able to tap into their energy before they even arrive.
Now, do you tell people before your readings that, not to contact you and let you know anything about them, or is that kind of part of the process where when you sign somebody up to do a reading?
Yeah, people don't. I don't want to know any information, and people don't usually. They don't generally offer any information. The only thing I might ask them is if someone is coming specifically to connect with someone who has passed, and I get all kinds of people. Who have passed violently, in crimes.
Mm-hmm.
I will ask sometimes, not all the time, I will ask the first name of who they want to speak to so I can start communicating with that spirit, that soul, before they even arrive. But not all the time, because sometimes I'm booked and I don't even have time for that. But that's just something that I enjoy doing, and I like the clarity about that. I want to be able to pass on as much information as I can within that hour time. So, but that's all I ask, because otherwise, what fun would that be if you told me everything?
Right.
That wouldn't be any fun.
Well, I know I asked you this via email, but if you'd be comfortable with it, would you mind doing a quick reading for me during this interview?
Sure, absolutely.
Great. And I don't know how this goes. I've never gotten a reading. You're actually the first person who I've spoken to that is psychic. So let me know how it goes, and then let me know, I guess, what information. You know my name. But is it generally I am asking questions to you, or the other way around?
Yeah. So before we started this call, I did write a few notes down about you. And the first thing that comes through is that you seem to be juggling a lot of activities. They say you have a lot of balls in the air. You're juggling a lot. And a lot on your plate, they say. And the other part of that is it seems to be a little bit trying to get others around you to, they say specifically, cut you some slack and understand. It seems to me that you are spreading yourself a little bit thin, they say. Right, or burning the candle at both ends.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I would say that's accurate. It's been like that for years for me. I can't seem to drop any activities. They just keep coming.
Right. And then, so that's all I had time to write, but you can ask, anything you like as far as any of these activities that you have. Should I, maybe a good question would be, should I drop this particular one? Or, if it's not serving you in some way, so people, you can ask anything you like.
Well, yeah, I mean, since we're on that train, let's go that direction. Mm-hmm. I guess I have several things. Some are necessary, some are not. But I don't know. What's the harm in keeping those, or would it be a better idea to drop out of some of those?
Well, when you ask what the harm, it doesn't seem to do you any harm, but it seems to, it's a cause and effect. It seems to affect, for some reason, they keep talking about others around you.
Hmm.
So you may like it and think it's just, fine and wonderful. And they're asking, but what about the other people around you? Are you able to carve out enough time for them? Um, there seems to be a couple of people that are kind of annoyed with your with your schedule, and it seems to be, yeah, it's sort of like rubbing them the wrong way. It's just a bit of an irritant. Not enough time. So do you know what they're or who they're talking about?
No, I can imagine probably. I don't have that many people close to me, so it kind of narrows it down. But that has not been my impression of their, I guess, opinion of all my activities. But it's certainly
Are you
worth looking into.
so you're not married?
I am married. Yes, I'm married. I have two children. I don't really. I work a lot. I don't have a lot of real, like friends that are, depend on me to be around that much. So I'm guessing you're referring to my family.
And what's your wife's first name? Hmm. Yeah. Puts on they say, a brave face. And right. So she gives a lot of her time, puts a lot of that extra time and effort, they say, into the children, because you can be sort of like, um, knocking her head against a wall. So it's like, Jeremy, Jeremy, Jeremy. And so, this is not to say that you're insensitive or anything like that. This is just sort of a heads up for you.
Hmm.
This is, right. And so they say that she's on the surface, the waters look quiet and calm. But on the inside, it doesn't take a scientist to figure out, what woman doesn't want more attention or romance or flowers, really simple things like that. The consideration and appreciation, as opposed to, she may feel a little taken for granted.
Hmm.
So this isn't, like they say, this isn't rocket science. This is very little effort that she's asking for on your part. And you may have overlooked that.
Hmm.
Because that's just the nature, right, of men and women. And this is the ebb and flow of marriage also. It happens. So this is what they're talking about when, because I don't feel that she's dramatic. I don't feel like she pitches a fit. I don't feel like she's that type of person, but they want you to know she may not do all those things, but, and the waters are calm on the surface, but her feelings run very deep,
Hmm.
so you might have to, backtrack a little, Jeremy, and do a little a little one-on-one, dinner or flowers or all of the above.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever bad advice.
Yeah, yeah. So specifically, right, specifically when you say that you have a lot of things going on, the only suggestion there is, they use the metaphor, the saying rather, that says, I can do six things, or I can, kind of good, or I can do two things very well. And so it may, and this is, of course, free will. This is your choice, because that's the umbrella that we all live under, is our own free will. We're free to do anything we want at any time. Nobody's going to stop us. So, but it may serve you and your goals and purpose to concentrate your energies, perhaps not quite as sporadically. And it depends on if you have, two projects that you're working on. If you would like them to go from here all the way up to here, it just is common sense to, stop doing two or three other things and focus on those two things to get the kind of results that you would like. So again, they're talking about being spread too thin.
Okay.
But again, it depends on what you want. You can't say, well, I didn't get that promotion. It's like, well, I've only been giving 40%. Well, of course I didn't get that promotion,
Right.
So that's basically what they're saying about everything that you've got going on.
Okay. I guess I would also like to know a little more about my spirit guides. That's something that I've never really investigated or asked about.
Um, Spirit guides are, we usually have a mix of male and female. And as far as names, they don't really, they don't really mind, if they will give us their names, but they don't really go by names. But we as human beings like to know their names, if that makes sense. So, it's specific. What would you like to know about your guides?
I guess just I don't know who they are, and I don't know. I feel a
Okay.
little dumbfounded. I don't really know quite what to ask because it's a relatively new concept for me. But
Sure. So I'll tell you briefly. Spirit guides are entities or souls who have had physical lives, who are on the other side, who remain on the other side. I believe we come from there, and when we die, we'll return to the other side. So spirit guides are sort of the ones on the other side that say, okay, you're going into this physical body. You've put all these big, huge life lessons on this big plate, and we're going to stay over here and guide you and help you. So that's what and who spirit guides are. They always have your highest good in mind. You may have had lifetimes with them as friends or perhaps mother, father, that sort of thing. So that's who and what they are, as opposed to angels, who are, I call them God's helpers. And angels have never and do never take physical bodies because they are a higher realm of entity. They're not on this lowly physical realm like we are.
right.
So it's interesting. I'm not sure who this is who's coming through, and I don't know if your father or if your grandfather. And I will preface that with saying this. My experience when I talk to people who've passed, for some reason, grandparent energy is the strongest energy there is. And so they will elbow their way to the front of the line of people on the other side who want to speak to you. And some people will say, well, I didn't even know my grandparents. How can that be? Because it just is. I don't know why, but they are very strong. And so there's this man that's coming through when you asked about your spirit guides. Let me see if he's I don't know. He feels more like your grandfather. And he's very optimistic, and he's got on a khaki green vest that looks almost like he's outfitted for fishing. And he's happy and smiling. He's an older guy. I would say he's probably about 70 or so. And yeah, if he's coming through, that means he's tied to you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this feels like a grandfather to me because he is showing himself as older. Has your grandfather passed?
Yes, he has.
Yeah, and he's talking about he's just smiling, and he's really happy, and he's tied to you as he's talking about teaching you things as when you were young.
Mm-hmm.
And he has enough patience as for about 10 people. He's just the kindest man. So, is this your grandfather?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like him.
What was his first name?
His
It's
name's
kind of
Bill.
old. Okay. Is that his real name or what he went by?
That's what he went by. His name's William.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Is this your dad's dad or
No, it's not.
mom?
It's my mom's stepfather.
He's very right, and he's saying that this that are spending time together, because he's sort of like in a forest or something. So it's very outdoorsy, and he's talking when you were about 7 or 8. He's talking about experiencing things or teaching you things, I'm surprised that he's a stepdad, because he feels just very connected to you. So I don't know if he comes to you in dreams, or if you ever think of him, or if you have a picture of him around, because he's very present. He seems to have made an impact on you, a positive one,
Hmm.
when you were young. I don't know if he was filling a void. That's what it feels like, though. Um, Not that Dad wasn't around, but Dad just may have not had these specific skills and experiences to pass on to you. And then they were just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's spot on.
Okay. Yeah. So he wants to know that, excuse me, and when anybody ever comes through like this, that when they come through, they also want you to know that he is available to you. So you can talk to him
Hmm.
out loud, or in your mind, and he is present for you. So a lot of times, it's funny, people on the other side, I don't necessarily choose what question to answer first. If they come through, it's sort of my responsibility to acknowledge their presence, even if the person coming for the reading doesn't know who it is. 99.9% of the time people do, because they come through so clear with um, such clear details, that
Hmm.
it's like, wow, okay. Either that, or they'll call me on their drive home, and they go, I can't believe I know who it is. I know who it is, so, because sometimes in the moment we're just kind of caught up and we can't think of who it is.
Right.
So, yeah. Right. And so I forgot your original question now that Bill popped in.
Well, I was just asking about spirit guides, but
Oh,
that
okay.
is somebody I was intending on asking you about.
Aha.
So I don't. I guess you've already answered that.
Yeah, they do that a lot, as well, when I write before people come, and then people will refer to their list, which is a great idea, to come with a list of questions, because a lot of times we do forget, and they say exactly what you said. Oh, they've answered everything. So they like to beat you to the punch
Right.
there. So, but what else? What else? What else can they help you with?
Honestly, that's all I had written down. I always I think of how he's coping with current situations going on in our family, and whether or not he's, I guess, being a support system for them now too.
Right. Yeah. And he's talking about, are there two daughters,
There
or,
there's one. My mother's still alive, but my aunt is deceased.
okay. Right. And what's your mom's first name? And what was her sister's name? Right. And Bill says, was the wild one? And then he laughs.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
He was very vibrant, very, right. And they say if there was a zip line, would be the first one there to say, let's do this, this is insane. Let's do it. It's fun.
Yeah.
So, right. Any questions about your mom?
No, I don't think I have questions about her. I talk to her regularly.
Hmm.
I do have questions about my grandmother, Bill's wife, who's still with us, and how she's doing.
And what's her name? And she is far from you, physically?
She's about 80 miles from me.
Yeah. She feels further away than that. And which is, again, I should have mentioned, spirit guides always tend to speak metaphorically, and we tend to, as human beings, take things literally. And so when someone comes through like this, and I feel like she's far away, this could be a couple of things. This could mean that perhaps you don't see her as much. Perhaps there is. When this distance comes in, sometimes it refers to these two don't get along too well. This could refer to her mental state, that she's not present in the body, which would be reflective of dementia or Alzheimer's, because she's not, in the present moment. So this could be a couple of things. Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel like there's great sadness with your grandmother. It comes through to me as energy, and it feels very heavy. It feels like a burden.
Hmm.
It doesn't feel very good at all. All right. And Bill comes in and he says she's wrestling with it, and she's been wrestling with it for quite some time, because she wants it to be okay, and it's not okay. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yes, I do, and I'd say that's an accurate statement.
Hmm. It's sad. It's very sad, because I feel like she's suffering. Um, you know, right, right. And it's nobody's fault. It's not her fault. It's just the way things are. And it's not very right. This surprised her. What's going on? She's surprised she feels this way. She wasn't expecting this,
Hmm.
situation, this physical situation. Yeah, not very happy about it, and I don't blame her. I don't think I would be happy about it either. It's just one of those things of like, well, this is the way it is, and it's just kind of crummy.
Right. Well, I'd totally say that's accurate. I think what I read your website, to most of it actually, and you did recommend giving some readings a few days to sink in, and I think what I'm going to do is really allow that. I want to go back and listen to our conversation and just kind of let it sink in before I actually record my post comments. And I just want to say you're spot on everything. But I can even email you and let you know. But I do want to kind of reflect on what you're saying. And but can you, I guess, give me a little more information about the reason you recommend this?
Recommend,
Just giving it a few days to sink in, and
right.
before you do
Well,
anything.
yeah, a lot of times the information that spirit gives is can be sort of heavy. And I have to tell you one more thing, because they won't leave me alone before you
Okay.
move on. They they won't. They say do not underestimate your presence with your grandmother.
Hmm.
Don't think that it doesn't mean anything or that it's not important. It has a much bigger impact in a good way than you give it credit or give yourself credit. You are, she loves you. She loves seeing you. It's a bright spot. You're a bright spot. It's just got great energy around it. So they're just saying don't underestimate your presence and what you bring, just by being you when you visit her. You don't
Hmm.
have to do anything special. It's just a bright spot in her life, you know.
Right.
So right. So anyway, but a lot of times spirit will talk about heavy things or serious or far-reaching things or big life lessons that may be difficult, or that we're meant to reflect on or to ponder for a while, and like you said, let it sink in, and let me sort of process that. So that's why they suggest that. That's why I like to record readings, because there's so much information at the time.
Hmm.
It's a bit much to take in, and so it's great to be able to record it and go back and listen to it a month later, or even a year later, or 6 months later. It's interesting to see how things worked out, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they pack in a lot of information in a short period of time.
Yeah, it seems like it. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I know we kind of went over a little bit, and I want to be respectful of your time as well. Can you tell people, all my listeners, where they can go to learn more about you and maybe even book a reading with you?
Sure. The best way to get a hold of me is through my website, and it's my name. It's lornaadams.com, and Lorna is Lorna, and then Adams. That's pretty easy, right? Adams.
Mm-hmm.
lornaadams.com. And you can email me. My email's on there. My blog, Facebook. Let me see, Facebook. I'm bad about Facebook. Psychic Lorna Adams is a great way to reach me. That's easy to remember also. And feel free to email me with questions about, possibly having a reading, or a question before you have a reading, anything like that. I'm always happy to answer emails. Or the best way to book a reading is just to call me. If it's easier to text or email, I'm open to that as well. So I'm always doing one of those things. So I try to make myself as available as I can to at least get you on the calendar.
Well, thank you so much again. You responded really quickly to my request, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Just want to thank Lorna for her time. She was a phenomenal guest. I spoke a little bit more with her after the recording stopped, and I just wanted to say that the things we discussed had a lot of accuracy. I know that's hard for you to tell, not knowing some of the personal details of my life, but I'll elaborate a little bit here. My grandfather did used to take me fishing during spring breaks, usually when I was around 7 or 8 years old. The other items discussed, like burning the candle at both ends, really hold true as well. For as long as I can remember, I've been working 2 jobs, and I also have a lot of extracurricular activities like this podcast and paranormal investigations that just take up a lot of time. She was also right about my grandmother being sad and unhappy with her current situation. I don't really want to share too many exact details about these things, but I think I'd have some pretty upset family members if I divulged too much. And I happen to want to preserve those relationships, but Lorna was really accurate with some of these things. Do you believe in psychic phenomena? I'd love to hear your impressions about today's guest. If you haven't seen my social media announcements, I just made a switch from a Facebook page to a Facebook group. This should allow members to post their own links and provide more ways to exchange thoughts and ideas about anything paranormal with me. Now, before you go, I'd like to try something new today and see if you guys like it. I'm going to play you an EVP from one of the investigations I've been on. This is a specific question and answer from the Spirit Box. See if you can tell what it says. I'll play it a few times for you.
Were you trying to make Nicole feel sick? Were you trying to make Nicole feel sick?
So here's what I'd like to try. We can call it a social experiment. I'd like you to visit my new Facebook group where I will post an uncompressed link to this EVP, and you can listen to it in even higher quality as many times as you want. And in the comments, tell me what you think it says. Now, next weekend, I will post on Facebook what I believe it says in the same comment thread. I'd like to see how many people agree with what I think it says. You can find all of this episode's show notes at deviatus.com/23. Make sure you're connecting with me on Facebook or on Twitter and Instagram at deviatuspod. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and until next time, thanks for listening.